Yikes, man.
Egads.
I did not think that we would be getting on the radio at 10 a.m. on Wednesday discussing not only a bad Sacramento Kings performance against the Hornets, but a loss for the Sacramento Kings to the Charlotte Hornets. Charlotte notches just their 8th win of the season, 111-104 for Sacramento. Charlotte coming off, or they were in the second night of a back-to-back. They were missing a couple of players. It was just, everything was lined up for the Kings. And you and I talked about it on Tuesday's show, James. We talked about, like, hey, this is a good opportunity to blow this team out of the water, get your starters 25 minutes, and then get them out and get set up to play the Magic on Wednesday. And instead, they not only lost, they smoked a late lead. They, I think from a pure basketball standpoint, might have played their worst game of the year.
Yeah.
Although the couple in Houston were really
I don't know if I'm going to put it that way.
This is their worst loss of the year for me. When we're chalking up bad losses, this is the worst one for me.
This is a one that says you're not serious. That says it, like, you're not ready yet. And until you are ready, like, I don't know, like, stop talking about, like, who you think you're going to be. Because until you fix things like what happened last night, then, like, you can't take the next step. The next step is for you to be a grown-up basketball team. That was not a grown-up basketball team.
Yep.
That was a 13-year-old throwing a tantrum in his room. And I don't know what else to say. I mean, you walk into a game, like, Domantas Sabonis was a beast, but 11 turnovers, man.
That's a bad game.
11 turnovers.
That's a bad game.
And like, pulling Malik Monk 5 minutes into his stint and saying you're done. Like, that's a bad game. Like, there were so many things to point to in this where you had a team that was bad. Not only are they bad, I mean, they're epically bad. They had lost 11 in a row coming into that game last night.
Well, and you could see it in the first 9 minutes of the first quarter.
Yeah.
They couldn't shoot. They couldn't get an open shot. They couldn't play defense.
And they were still just sitting there tied.
It was
or down 2 or up 2. You're like, okay, well, this is one of those games where they're going to figure it out at some point and throttle a team. But they didn't. They never took it serious. And then when they decided to take it serious was when Terry Rozier got red hot and the game was over. You let one guy get hot, and that's what happens in those games. That was not a highly competitive game. That was a really good team sinking to the lowest of low level of a bad opponent who not only was missing their starting point guard, but like their starting small forward. And oh, by the way, their starting shooting guard couldn't go like at 15 minutes before lineups were due. So 60% of their starting lineup is gone. Actually, it's 80 because Mark Williams wasn't able to go either. So you had one guy and you let one guy beat you. Like, all right, if that's who you are.
That's so. Before I dive into just how abysmal it was, because I think everybody kind of knows that, I will note, small silver lining here. That a sign of the times in Sacramento is that there is genuine anger about this and not apathy.
Yes.
That it's like, oh, hey, that's not what this team is supposed to look like. Instead of, well, like there were, and again, this is a small, very small subsection of Kings fans, but I had people replying to me on the internet last night. I'm not watching tomorrow. This is dumb. This is terrible. It's like, if you want to take a night off, I don't mind, man. After that, if you want to take a night off, I don't mind at all. But just to kind of get back to it, that is the kind of loss that, and look, Boston went to OT at home with Detroit.
Yeah.
Okay. Like weird things happen in the NBA, but for the Kings, they are not Boston. This is not a championship contender who has proven night in and night out that they are one of the best teams in the NBA. Oh, and then they had a bad night. This is a pattern. This is those 2 games in Houston. The first game of the 2 in New Orleans, where they were just non-competitive.
Didn't show up.
It is, and we keep asking, Like, okay, well, when are the real Kings going to show up? In fact, in the YouTube chat, in the chatty house, youtube.com/ESPN1320, twitch.tv/ESPN1320, Wheezy80. I don't get the Kings, man. Dr. Jekyll and Mr. Hyde. Not sure which one is the real Kings. This is it. You're seeing it. The real Kings are the team that, yeah, hey, they might go beat Denver and Phoenix and Minnesota in Minnesota. Sure, they're capable of all that, but they're also capable of what you saw last night. And that's not to say the season is over. That's not to say that they can't get better than this. This is not to say that this isn't working, blow up the whole thing. No. But it's just very clear to me with this group of players that this is kind of where they cap out. Like they're a very good team that is still capable of losing a game like last night.
Yeah, it's tough because what this game really looked like is a couple of years ago under Alvin Gentry, the Philadelphia 76ers rolled into Sacramento and they lost 5 starters before the game, 5 starters out. And the Kings got rolled by a team missing 5 starters. And so the problem is that team that I'm talking about that lost that game was a bad team, straight up bad team. This team should not be this team. And it's funny because last season, that's what our comparison should be, right? It should be last season.
Yes.
Well, last season, this team was resilient.
Yes.
They didn't have a bad loss early in the season. I don't even remember when they had a bad loss, but it wasn't, maybe they had 1 or 2 the entire season.
I'm sure they had some. Yeah.
This team already has like 5 or 6 just flat out bad losses. The loss last week to Portland, that's just a joke. That's a bad loss.
Yep.
You walk into an arena where a team is not good at all, and you don't take them serious, and you get punked. And then you go to Atlanta, and you do the same exact thing for the first 24 minutes of the game. You just flat out don't show up, and you get punked. You get lucky, and somehow you play defense in the second half, and
hey, bounce back nice.
Show what kind of team you are, right? And you beat them. And then you carry that into Memphis. But the fact that I don't want any excuses about the first game back after a road trip. Like, come on now. This is one of the worst teams in the NBA. Yeah. And you just let them walk into your home court with a sold out building. And people had to leave early because you were trash in the final 2 minutes of a game. Because you left them. You let them stick around. This was 100% on the Kings. You let a horrific team stick around, and when that happens, all bets are off.
I'll buy I heard the broadcast saying this last night. It was, love the effort in the first game back after a long road trip. First of all, 3 games is not a long road trip.
No.
I understand they want to cross the country. Okay. But look, that flies in the first half. Okay. Hey, they're only up 5, but first game back, they'll get it together in the second half. And they didn't. Or if they were playing a better team, if they were playing Oklahoma City and just kind of face planted against Oklahoma City, it's like, well, first game back, they're not worse than Oklahoma City like that. That's the frustrating part of this. It's like the opponent matters here.
Yeah.
And you don't get, I'm sorry, the Kings are, for me, and maybe not for you, James, or you listener or whoever, the Kings for me are beyond the like, hey, good effort.
Oh yeah.
They tried. And it wasn't, frankly.
No,
I did not watch that game and go, man, they are trying their asses off right now. And they just can't. If it was, man, they just couldn't buy a bucket, which was a little bit the case last night. They smoked a couple of layups that I don't think they would typically miss. But it wasn't like, man, they just can't buy one. And boy, the Hornets are just getting really it just I hate this cliche, but the Hornets just wanted it more last night. Kyle, that is certainly how it came off to me on the television.
They had every reason to want it more. They'd lost 11 in a row, right? And if you're a professional basketball player, you have pride.
Yeah.
You should want to go in there and do everything you can do to win a game. And it's the strangest thing, man. There are weird barometers for teams. There's things that you can look at that, like, you can circle in a box score and say, okay, when this happens, I know that this is going to be a long night, right? And for a lot of teams, it's like, okay, fast break points or second chance points. Kings dominated second. It was like 22-2 second chance points, right? All of these like things are usually things that you can circle in a box score and say, this is something that I can point to. A lack of focus for the Sacramento Kings. If you want to look at a lack of focus, all you have to look at is one stat. Their missed free throws.
Yep.
Every time they miss free throws like this, when it means they're not focused and they lose.
Yep.
And to me, it doesn't make any sense that you walk into a game that should be, it's important as any other game that you played. You want to beat a good Memphis team or a bad Memphis team, Memphis in Memphis. You can't come back and lose at home to a bad team. Especially on the first night of a back-to-back when you've proven all year long that you don't have the intestinal fortitude to survive the second night of a back-to-back.
And that is just it. And we'll dive into the whole second night of a back-to-back thing a little bit later on in the show, but we have plenty to dig into with this Kings Hornets game first.
Yeah.
That's the problem here. And that's the problem with the Dr. Jekyll, Mr. Hyde thing. I don't care how good you can be. I don't care hey, on one night, we can beat any team in the league, whoever you think the best, the Celtics. We can beat the Celtics on any given night. Okay, that's great. But are you capable of putting together 7 games of that and win a playoff series and then do that 4 times? And the answer right now is no.
Yeah.
You cannot trust this team right now to bring it at a high level. You can trust certain players.
Yeah.
I trust De'Aaron Fox to win a game with my life on the line individually. But I don't trust this team to go be better than a playoff team 4 nights out of 7.
Yeah.
And again, that's not to say that blow it all up, but it's very clear to me, if it wasn't before, that this iteration of the Kings needs a little bit of a shakeup.
They need something.
Yeah.
And they just got a shakeup in the starting lineup, and that wasn't what it was. That wasn't what you needed.
No.
It's something else. Yeah.
Tons to get into. We'll have sound from De'Aaron Fox post-game last night. We'll have sound from Mike Brown post-game last night. Kings fans, how we feeling? 916-909-1320, 916-909-1320. Tough loss for the Kings last night, 111-104 at home to the Hornets on the back end of a back-to-back for Charlotte. They now have 8 wins. They had lost 11 in a row. It's not great. 6 quick thoughts with James Ham coming up next on The Insiders, sponsored by Jiffy Lube here on ESPN 1320.
Hi, friends. Hey, I'm going to pull this while we're here. And I don't, Scout Recycler, I don't want to be disrespectful, but I don't know what you're talking about. Like, there are no inconsistent rotations. You have your 5 starters. Every single game, De'Aaron Fox and Harrison Barnes come out at the 6-minute mark. Someone else comes in for 3 minutes. If they play well, they get to keep playing. If they don't, they go back to other players. Like, the same people are playing every single night, except for the guy at the 9.5, 10-man spot in the rotation. Sometimes it's Sasha Vezenkov that gets to play. Chris Duarte is now stolen minutes, so he's getting to play. But I don't see any inconsistency at all in what Mike Brown's doing. He gave Keon Ellis like a 20-game sample to go ahead and run and prove that he's a player. And he gave Davion Mitchell plenty of time early in the season. And now he's giving Davion Mitchell another shot. Again, like last night, Malik Monk got pulled after 5 minutes because Malik Monk deserved to get pulled after 5 minutes. We'll get into that later, but at some point you have to make changes in your rotation. You got to make changes in your lineup. Like, Alex Lynn is a better player, in my opinion, right now than JaVale McGee. He's taken the backup center position. I don't know. Like, when a guy is good, he gets to play more. Trey Lyles is good. He gets to play more. Yeah, like, guys played themselves out of the rotation. Like, again, like Carlton, Duarte was getting DMPs. Duarte was getting DMPs because he was averaging 7.2 personal fouls per 36 minutes. Like, you can't have one guy put you in the bonus every single quarter. Like, I get it, but again, I think Mike's been extremely consistent. Look at his rotations. Like, there is a guy or two at the back end of the rotation that either plays or doesn't. And he's honest with those guys. They know going into a game the chance of them playing and what the chance of them not playing. There is no like mystery here. Keon Ellis was playing a very rigorous game of 3-on-3 in pregame yesterday with Jalen Slauson and I think Colby Jones because he knew he wasn't going to play very much.
Mic on. I will. I have a additional quick thought.
Oh, okay.
All right, here we go. Yuck, man.
Mm-hmm.
I hate games like this. Or like last night.
Yeah.
Because there's nothing. Like, I'm not going to be patronizing. I'm not going to, like, Chris Duarte was good last night, but I'm not going to be like, hey, you know what? This is great. This is actually good.
Yeah.
Maybe it's better that they lost this one. I'm not doing that.
No. Well, that would be intellectually dishonest.
Yeah, 100%.
Like, that's what, I mean, if you're going to ask me my thoughts on a game, I'm going to be honest.
Yep.
I'm not going to hide from it. And, like, look, I don't have any stake in this race here. Like, it is, I cover a team and sometimes they do this. And when they do this, you gotta call them out.
No doubt. You said you had thoughts on last night's game. How about 6 of them?
How'd yesterday's Kings game go? Kings insider James Ham has 6 notes you need to know. Here are James Ham's 6 quick thoughts.
Kind of fire, right?
That's fire, Kyle.
Yeah.
Shout
out to the homie Chris Rice for putting that together.
Look at that.
At least I think it was Chris. It might have been Charlie. Whoever put that together for us.
Well, it's not Charlie's voice, so
no, the voice guy. Well, Charlie sends it all to the voice guy, but
good stuff. All right.
I didn't even run that script by you, so I'm happy you enjoyed it.
Yeah, that was cool.
All right, great.
I'm in.
Let's get to your first quick thought on last night's Kings loss.
The Kings struggled out of the gate, but Domantas Sabonis kept them afloat early. He crashed the glass, ripped through the Hornets centers for 23 points, 18 rebounds, and 4 assists. On the downside, Kyle, he turned the ball over 11 times. He had a dubious triple-double. He had a triple-double, just not one of the ones that we talk about.
Yeah, no.
11 turnovers. I don't even know what happened. And the problem that I have is that it wasn't even against, like, it was Nick Richards. And
right. You weren't doing this against Joel Embiid.
You weren't even doing it against Mark Williams. Like, there was a guy named Mensa. Mensa played. I don't even know who Mensa is. I don't know if he's a member.
Vic Mensa's a rapper.
I don't know. Like, I had to look up what his name was. Nathan Mensa. He's probably a Mensa member. Either way, like, I don't know how this happens where you walk into a game and the problem that I have is that he had 11 turnovers. The Hornets only had 8 steals as a team, which means that most of his turnovers were unforced. The Kings have 20 as a team, but like, I don't know what to say. Like, you have games like that. Like, to quote Buddy Hield, it'd be like that sometimes.
It do be. Yeah.
But at the same time, like, you can't do that. I don't know.
Not it like you said, if it was a better opponent where you're going, hey, they have a really good defensive center.
Yeah.
Even for God's sakes, Clint Capella, if they had done that, if Sabonis had done that against Clint Capella, it's like, you know what? That's a little bit of a tough matchup. And you give him some grace there. But when it is throwing the ball away and dribbling it off feet and guys not going the right way on passes, it's like that's where, and it's just throwing the ball out of bounds. That comes from a lack of focus. And again, not that losing this one game is making or breaking the season.
Yeah.
But it is the mindset going into a game like this, where you have Domantas Sabonis setting a career high in turnovers. That is so indicative of what last night's game was.
Yeah, when a guy finishes a game with 23 points, 18 rebounds, and we can't like give him his flowers, that's tough.
Yeah, 23 and 19, like damn good game. 11 whats?
Yeah,
That's
brutal.
Not great. Number 2.
Slow start, bad finish. De'Aaron Fox missed his first 5 shots. Eventually settled in, 30 points, 6 assists, 5 rebound performance. The 3-ball was on the fritz early. He found a way to score, but he didn't have any late game heroics. And in fact, he had 2 crucial turnovers, one of which was when the game was basically over.
Mm-hmm.
But the one before that, the loose ball turnover where he gave up like a transition bucket. Like I think they hit a 3. He talked about it.
They had the backdoor cut where I think somebody fell asleep. I don't know exactly whose assignment it was, but they had a backdoor cut for an easy dunk.
Yep.
And then right after that, De'Aaron just dribbles it off his foot.
Yeah. Like
and
boom, game over.
What was incredible was Mark Jones on the TV broadcast says it's officially crunch time, like inside of 5 minutes, 5-point game inside of 5 minutes.
Yeah.
When the clock ticked to 5 minutes, he says it's officially crunch time, and De'Aaron immediately hits a layup.
Yeah.
And then he comes down and draws contact, gets a layup. And then does that little sick ass hezzy on the perimeter.
Yep.
It goes left, and it's like, there it is. Like this is over. Like we saw it a million times last year.
Yes.
Like, okay, De'Aaron's going to take over this game late night. And then it was like the car starter didn't turn over. Just a weird.
Well, and I also like the problem is when you're in a game like that and you leave a door open, a professional basketball player like Terry Rozier will step through and say, all right, if this is what you're going to do, I will respond.
Mm-hmm.
And he starts hitting shots. And next thing you know, you had, a guy draped all over him and somehow he hits a rainbow 3, just a backbreaker.
That was sick.
And you're just like,
that was such a ridiculous shot.
You gave them confidence.
Mm-hmm.
You let them stick around. You gave them confidence, and they beat you.
Yep.
And then, you didn't help the situation. All right.
Yep. Number 3.
Settling in. Chris Duarte started his second straight game at the shooting guard spot and once again showed his value. He hit the glass, made some solid passes, and played defense on his way to 12.7 rebounds, 4 assists. Solid glue guy performance.
Yep.
That was some Doug Christie performance right there.
I want to put a pin in that for sure, the Doug Christie element of this. But when the Kings signed Chris Duarte, I think idealized version of that signing was last night. 12 points, 7 boards, 4 assists, playing good defense.
Yep.
Just doing the little things that we talked about so much yesterday.
Kyle, he had 3 putback buckets off of offensive rebounds.
Yep. That's just effort. They
didn't run plays for him. He went and got the ball. And that's where we've been saying, again and again and again about Harrison Barnes.
Mm-hmm.
Like no one has told him you can't rebound.
Right.
Like nobody is like, it's not like the ball has a cheese touch and you're not supposed to go, you don't want to go get the cheese touching and touch the ball.
Yeah.
He played 24 minutes last night, Harrison Barnes.
Yeah.
1 rebound.
I have a 7th quick thought.
Your starting shooting guard had 7 rebounds.
Yeah.
You want points, you want shots, you want that kind of reward. Go get it.
Go create them.
Chris Duarte just went and got it. 6 of his points came off of missed buckets.
Yep. Real quick, Sass in the chat says not sold on Duarte. Yeah, no, one good game does not a star make, but you see the vision. You see if he can do that night in and night out, that helps the Kings immensely. Number 4, let's rip through these last couple.
Yep. Malik Monk played a total 5 minutes in the first half and was quiet while the Kings were searching for a spark. In the third quarter, Monk hit a pair of threes and appeared to say something to the Kings bench. It spilled over into the timeout. Cooler heads eventually prevailed, but we're going to have more on that.
I have some takes. Number 5.
Hiding in the Kings, I wrote this before they lost. 2-game win streak and with some tough ball games for Keegan Murray. He's averaging 8 points over his previous 3 games and exactly put on the show in this one. It's a long season, but it feels like a mini dip in production for Keegan.
Yeah, he hasn't.
Yeah, just struggles.
This is why he had that really nice like week stretch at the 47 points.
Yeah.
But he's even good the couple of games before that. And it was like, this is great, but this is what you need to continue to see. You need to continue to see these steps. That he's struggling right now is not like, oh my God, he's bad now. But I think this is just kind of the growing pains of, hey, we've seen what Pete Keegan looks like. A step back was I think probably expected on some level.
Yep.
And we're seeing that now. The key is going to be getting out of it post haste.
This is a second-year player.
Yep.
That's exactly what we're seeing. And that's why typically you don't rely on a second-year player to be your third best player.
Yeah. Yep.
Okay.
Number 6.
More Trey Lyles, please. The Kings reserve forward continue to make an impact. He's 10 for 17 from 3 over his last 3 games, including 3 more makes in this one. He's giving the Kings a nice punch off the bench. I continue to, every time I watch Trey Lyles play, I need to see more Trey Lyles.
He's one of their 5 best players right now. And I don't know if that's really in question.
Yeah, maybe.
He's very, very good. We'll talk more about that. Bonus quick thought. You mentioned Harrison Barnes in the rebounding. Ish Smith, who's played for, I think, 26 NBA teams.
Yeah,
he's
43 NBA teams.
He's 35. Oh, 43. Thank you.
Yeah.
35 years old. He is 6 feet tall. He played 18 minutes. He had more rebounds than all but 2 Kings.
Oh,
He had 6 boards last night.
That's hustle.
That's it.
That's it.
That's it.
Show
he was
me.
locked in and focused and wanted to win a game.
That's right.
That's frustrating. Anyways.
Yeah.
916-909-1320. That's 916-909-1320. We have a couple callers on the line. Phone lines are open. If you want to vent, if you have trade thoughts, if I see people in the chatty house going in on Harrison Barnes and Chris Duarte, there's a bunch of stuff going on. Tons to dig into from Kings Hornets. We will continue doing that when we get back from the break. We'll be back in just a couple of minutes here on ESPN 1320.
Yep. What's going on, everybody? Is it getting a little crazy in the chatty house?
I wouldn't say crazy. People just have thoughts.
Yeah. All right.
I think that's good and healthy.
Yes.
I'll be right back.
Yep. Sass, the not sold on Chris Duarte comment. Like, this team needs players like Chris Duarte. And to me, it's a little bit like Trey Lyles. Like, Trey Lyles can get you rebounds. He'll have a game where he goes in the post and scores a bunch of baskets. He'll have a game where he blocks a big shot and you're like, where did that come from? Like, you need players that don't just get you points and that's it. And so, yeah, I like what Chris Duarte is bringing right now. I'm apprehensive because he hasn't been able to stay consistent and prove that this is who he is as a player. But I still do. I think that what they're doing right now is probably the right move and probably even the right move for Kevin Huerter. It gives him an opportunity to get more shots coming off the bench, which is a big deal. Steve Castaneda, do you ever see a scenario where Barnes comes off the bench? Sure, I do. Yeah, like if you go out and trade for a better forward, but that better forward does not include Harrison Barnes in the trade, then sure. Yeah, I do see a way. So, I mean, in all honesty, there's a way that, like, if the Kings start throwing in first-round picks, that you could look at a player like Kyle Kuzma, like, which has been brought up in the chat, and we might have that discussion later in the show. I feel like this show is going to go really fast. Okay, cool.
Telling secrets, chatty ass. See, the King of Mactown gets it.
There it is.
These are my people. The idea of Kessler Edwards is, I think, much greater than the reality.
Yeah. I mean, Kessler's
Although I think we've talked about this before. I think we talked about this before, but I would be in favor of Sacramento this offseason, whatever their roster looks like, whatever their pick situation looks like. If they want to just bring in 10 Kessler Edwards types and figure out which one can play in the NBA,
yeah,
I think that's the move.
You should be drafting Kessler Edward types all the time.
All the time. Late first round, second round, undrafted guys.
And I have a text I need to look at.
Ooh. James is one of my... Oh, hang on. All right, we got to get back. Remind me about James getting a text. I have a question.
I'm listening.
Have the Kings? So here, I want to let Mike Brown explain his thoughts on the game last night.
Okay.
And then I will ask you a question based on what Mike Brown had to say. And then we'll get to these calls. We got a couple of people hanging in there. We really appreciate it. James and Buddha, I see you. And we will get to you here shortly on ESPN 1320 916 909 1320 916 909 1320. Here is what Mike Brown said on last night's loss to Charlotte.
I thought they initially did a good job, and then, once we made subs, I like we were throwing underhand passes, and I mean, it was in my opinion, probably one of the laziest, loosest games that we've had where we decided to play that way.
That audio courtesy, of course, of our very own James Ham. Subscribe to the Kings Beat at thekingsbeat.com today, at James_Ham NBA on Twitter as well, if you want to listen to the full clip from Mike Brown. De'Aaron Fox and Chris Duarte also spoke last night, but that's not important. What's important is Mike Brown called that a lazy, loose game.
Yes.
Have the Kings earned to you the right to have a game like that?
No.
Me neither.
No,
I mean, that's what was worrying about it.
Like, if you're a team that's lost in the Western Conference Finals or something, then yeah.
Sure.
If you're a 55-60 win team and you have a game like that, okay. But I get exactly what he's talking about. And let's not like mince words here. Like, those...
Go ahead.
Those were shots. Shots fired right there by Mike Brown.
It's worth noting that the question that was a response to was specifically about Malik Monk.
Yeah, there were some issues there.
It was, hey, you and Malik Monk got in a little bit of a heated exchange. What was that about? Here's what he said about that.
Yeah, no, it's the heat of the moment. Malik and I think everybody has seen it, but Malik and I have gotten into exchanges before. This was not the first time, and I got a lot of money. It won't be the last time.
And then immediately after that went, it was sloppy, loose game, underhand passes, this and that. As soon as the subs came in, it was like, oh boy.
Yeah. So they bring in Malik Monk.
Yeah.
One of the first plays he does is he literally throws an underhand pass that surprises Domantas Sabonis, hits him in the chest, pops up in the air, and is a live ball turnover that goes down to the other end for a bucket. And like instantly it was like, oh boy, is this where we're going? Again, Sabonis, I believe, was hit with that turnover. But yes, that was one of the first plays. And then you saw just like this lethargic, like there was no energy in the building, and you expect that Malik Monk will bring the energy.
Yep. That's his
right.
I said on yesterday's show,
Yeah.
I said he's the most important player for the Kings.
Well, I think
And-
you saw it last night.
Yes.
So he gets yanked after 5 minutes. And I think the one thing I'll point out to is that's the team that drafted him, the team that kind of squandered his talent the first 3 years of his career, that held him back, in his opinion. Well, at least I believe in his opinion, that did not let him become the player that he is now. Right? That's a team. He wants to get over on them. But instead of hitting the nitro button and being playoff Malik, there was this unseriousness to what was happening on the court. And it wasn't just him. There was multiple players that, like, you could see the same thing. But he's such a lightning rod for this team. And then he sits, he comes back in the third quarter, and sure enough, he hits a couple of threes, and then he says something. And you know what this reminded me of? Like, longtime Kings fans will remember this moment. There was a moment when Rick Adelman refused to play Derek Martin. Derek Martin was not good enough to play for the Sacramento Kings on a daily basis. He got to play one night and went off in scrub time. 3 after 3 after 3 after 3. And I think he ended up scoring like something crazy, like 18 points or 20 points in like 5 minutes. And then it started getting out of control. Every time he hit a 3, he was looking at his own head coach the entire time. And like, you see this, like, it got out of control. Well, that's what Mike Brown viewed was disrespect. And I watch Malik go over, they call a timeout. Malik goes over and sits on the bench. And you see Mike Brown fuming on the court. And then he walks right over and leans over and like, blah, blah, blah. And Malik Monk says something. I think at first he said, all right now, Mike. And then Mike came back and started going again. And Malik said something to him, and they're jawing at each other on the sidelines. You can watch it all on Sean Cunningham. Recorded the whole entire thing from our seats, like was zoomed down.
Yeah.
We were watching it, but I was watching it play out in live in like live action. Like, oh, this is heated.
Yeah, because Malik Monk didn't make those 2 threes and then look at the bench and go, see, I can shoot.
Yeah.
Like,
No.
I don't think he was probably saying anything super nice.
Yeah. So I think the whole night had that kind of weird feel where something was off.
Yeah.
And maybe that's because you just spent a whole bunch of time together. Maybe you just spent too much time together over the holidays, because this team has played nothing but game after game after game. But that's the NBA.
Right.
Like,
If that's going to be a problem, then like,
yeah.
Yikes.
Well, and you know, like, brothers fight. That's the way it goes. Like, when you're a team, it's more like a brotherhood. You're with each other all the time. Sometimes you have these moments. And I just think for like Mike, it's his job to keep Malik like in line and heading the right direction. And for Monk, it's his job to bring the energy. And he didn't.
Here's the deal. If Malik Monk hits those 2 threes and him and Mike Brown are jawing at each other on the sideline, and the Kings eventually pull away, like I think everybody thought they would in the third quarter.
Yeah.
Everybody's going, man, look at this. Look at Malik. Look at this team. They're not afraid to get in each other's face and
Hold
let
each other accountable in the moment.
Yes.
Yeah.
And instead it turns into like, ooh, it's kind of awkward.
Yeah.
I don't make anything major out of it.
I don't either. And like, instantly we start getting, oh, free Malik. Oh, Malik's not coming back. Oh, he's not coming. Like, all this stuff. It's like, calm down, everybody. This is something that happens. Like, it is literally something that happens. If
this starts happening, you want a good example of this happens. Not to compare the two players, but go look at some of the stuff that's happened between Draymond Green and Steve Kerr.
Oh yeah.
2016 game in Oklahoma City where they almost fought at halftime. And they had this sideline report that was like, the cops are outside the Warriors locker room. Yeah.
Hey,
it happens.
My first year covering this team in 2010.
Again, not the same thing, but
all of a sudden Luther Head was no longer there. And I'm like, what happened to Luther Head? Like, it was time for Luther to go. And I'm like, what does that mean? And that was Paul Westphal, like, it was time for Luther to go.
Yeah.
And I'm like, oh,
It's as far as
we also had a situation that year where a player felt like one of the Kings' assistants disrespected his mom. It was like a very weird situation where the Kings had a player, an assistant coach, Mario Ellie, who somebody's mom, a player, his mom was a fan of Mario Ellie. Of course, Golden State Warriors, Houston Rockets. Mario Ellie was a good player, but his mom was a big fan of Mario Ellie. He tried to introduce his mom to Mario Ellie. It didn't go the way that he thought. So he waited until everybody was in a team meeting, waited until everybody went in the door, was the last guy to go in the door, and then unloaded on an assistant coach for disrespecting his mom. Yeah, bye. Like, that's wild. I think he was waived like a week or two later. And I'm not gonna and that's not the Luther head situation. That's someone else on the team. So look, there are situations that happen all the time. There are players who get into it.
Sure.
Famous, behind the scenes, Dante Green and DeMarcus Cousins getting into physical altercations. Jason Thompson, part of that. There are plenty of times where this team has had issues behind the scenes. But this is not that. This was a situation on a court where a player got a little chirpy and a coach didn't like it and let him have it.
Yeah. And the game wasn't going great. I'm sure player was frustrated. Coach was frustrated.
Everyone's frustrated.
Now, if this happens again tonight.
Yeah.
Okay. Now let's dig into it, but I'm not.
No, totally.
Losing my head over
Totally.
916-909-1320, 916-909-1320 if you want to join the conversation. James, Notham. What's going on? James in Sacramento. What do you got?
What's up, gentlemen?
Whoa.
I feel bad. He hung out on hold for such a long time. James, call back. Your connection was not the best. No, we got. I know what Buddha wants to talk about. And James, I think you might agree with him. Okay. Buddha, what's up?
What's up, baby? Happy New Year's to y'all, man.
Oh boy, go ahead.
I can't say Happy New Year's. It's too many days over now.
Yeah, yesterday was it. Yesterday was it for me, bro. I hope your holidays were good. I hope you had a good holiday season, Buddha. What do you got for us?
Yeah, for sure, man. I just seen a report. Kuz is on the trade block, so man, I think it's time to grab him up. They said 2 firsts, and I say Harrison Barnes because Kuz is so good for. I think we've been sleeping on him because he's a playmaker. He's a rebounder, and he's an aggressive scorer every night. 23 points a game right now. He playing on a bad team, but he ain't got no pieces around him. We would say De'Aaron Fox was playing on a bad team, and he was scoring his numbers. So I feel like Mike Brown will help Kuz play more defense, and that's the piece to take Kings to the next level because you would have De'Aaron Fox, Kuz, and Sabonis every night. They consistent. And then if Malik come, he come. Pause. If Chris Duarte come, he gonna come. Pause. But yeah, I think we got it, man. We get Kuz. What you guys think about that?
I agree. Flag on Buddha.
Flag on Buddha. You got the flag.
That's a flag. I guess you don't get. It's a flag on Buddha. Multiple personal fouls. No, you didn't even mention Keegan Murray. You're in on the Kuzma thing. I don't know if let me rephrase. Hang on. Let me paint the picture. After the show yesterday, we're sitting out here and I see James and I see TC on the line. Hang in there, guys. We're sitting out there after the show and you're doing research. You're doing the writer thing, right?
Yeah.
You sit around and you just read and you dig into stuff and you have an idea and you dig in and see if it's an idea worth exploring. And I'm sitting there and I'm writing and I hear you go, "Oh, Kyle Kuzma's only making whatever amount." And I was like, "Huh?" And then you're silent for a minute and all of a sudden you just go, "Hey, I kind of like the Kyle Kuzma idea." And then it's like, what?
Okay.
Where did it come from? Please explain.
I have been very much on the anti-Kyle Kuzma
very much
for a long time.
Yes.
For a long time,
yes.
Right? Because first of all, he plays for the most unserious franchise there ever was, right? That what we're seeing right there is not good at all, right?
Mm-hmm.
And it's a place where this is like 1990s, early 90s Sacramento Kings basketball. Like there's a point where Antoine Carr averages 20 points a game, where Rodney McRae averages 20 points a game. So like somebody like Kyle Kuzma, who's very talented, can go to Washington and average whatever 23 points a game. So it's not so much the numbers that grab me. And again, the other problem I have is that the Kings were interested in Kyle Kuzma during the offseason. And Kyle Kuzma chose a path of again not being serious about his craft.
Sure.
When you go back to the Washington Wizards, there is no question that team was not going to be good.
Although I agree with you. However, I don't think that Kyle Kuzma necessarily went, I want to be unserious, because you're looking at I and I know other people who thought like, yeah, hey, Jordan Poole getting out from whatever dark cloud is hanging over him in Golden State and going to Washington where he can be a lead guard. We've seen him be that and be successful in a postseason environment. Tyus Jones was the reason the Grizzlies were still good without Ja Morant. They brought him over. And you're going, hey, if you're Kyle Kuzma and you got these two guards, you're gonna be there in the front court. Like, okay, maybe you're building a little something here.
I get that.
I could see yourself someone talking themselves into that.
I think my point would be that like when a player values his own personal points per game over winning, then I don't really, he's not someone that I would go out and chase. Like if you're Kyle Kuzma and you literally play for a franchise that has done nothing for well over a decade, that just traded Bradley Beal, right? Because Bradley Beal like hit their end all be all. Bradley Beal,
Right.
He looked at the opportunity to score more points and to
just have a bigger role.
Okay. Or to like value something that is in the long run is very meaningless. Like your role with the team, that's not meaningless like all the time. But like what you can do for scoring 23 points a game for the Washington Wizards versus scoring 17 for the Sacramento Kings, you should value the wins over the points, at least in my world. Now, that's not Kyle Kuzma's world. I don't wear sweaters that have sleeves that are 4 feet long and they go down to the ground.
What?
And,
That's crazy. You totally seem like that kind of
and I
guy.
don't wear like weird headdresses on occasion and stuff. I don't, that's not who I am. I don't
This is
care
stunning.
about that stuff. I'm someone as an athlete, when I played sports, I am a nuts and bolts, go in there and play hard. And I don't think that, I think Kyle Kuzma does play hard, but I also think that he values the wrong things on occasion. So to wrap this up, to bring it back to the question, the question was,
you're in.
I'm in. First of all, Kyle Kuzma fits what the Kings need. They do need another scorer. They do need a long, athletic, power forward, multi-positional 3-4 guy who can do a lot of things on the court. If you go back to like 2 years ago, if they could get these 17.9 points per game, 8.5 rebounds, almost a block per game, Kyle Kuzma, we're talking about a 28-year-old. And then Kyle, what really started the discussion for me was I had looked at Kyle Kuzma, like his contract, and said, okay, he didn't get overly paid. Like I thought if he was going to go back to Washington, it would have been more for like $30 million a year. But then I look at his contract, and this is when my mind shifted. He makes $25.6 million this year. He makes $23.5 million next year, $21.5 the year after that, and $19.4 the year after that. Somehow they got Kyle Kuzma to sign a declining scale contract at 28 years old that would fit so perfectly into the Kings salary structure that I have to look at it and go, okay, wait a minute. Wait. That's what they did? Because now if Kyle Kuzma doesn't work out in 2 years, you still have 2 years of Kyle Kuzma and can move him because his contract is good for a player who can actually play.
Right.
I'm not saying Kyle Kuzma can't play. I just wonder if he's going to be all in on what you're doing. After watching what's happening in Washington, and like if he doesn't want to get out of there, I don't know, what he is as a basketball player. He's got to want to be out of there and want to be in a better situation for basketball purposes. And Sacramento can provide that. So do I want to give up a pair of first-round picks? I'm not giving up a pair of first-round picks for
No.
Kyle Kuzma, but I would give up a lottery-protected first and maybe 1 or 2 seconds to go with a package of salary that offsets his cost. And that's where I think the Kings will, I mean, they'd have to listen. And if you can do it without trading Harrison Barnes, stick with me here for a sec. Let's just say that, for instance, that you were able to get Kyle Kuzma matching salary. You could do something like Kevin Huerter and Davion Mitchell with the first round pick and maybe a second for Kyle Kuzma. And all of a sudden, Harrison Barnes is your super sub that can play the 2, 3, 4.
Right.
Behind
Harrison Barnes is the second guy off your bench is dramatically better than Harrison Barnes is your starting 4.
Yeah. So that's where I'm looking at this and going, okay, I would listen, especially if Chris Duarte can be your 2. You got Malik Monk as your backup 2. You've got young players in Keon Ellis and Colby Jones that can eat some minutes at the 1. You're going to have some issue there where you probably need to fill a void, but I'm okay with that. Like, that seems like a transaction that I would at least consider, because at the end of the day, I do think that makes you a better team.
I'm totally with you. In our chatty house.
Yep.
I'm Not Ham says they'd only consider Kuzma if the Kings give up no first, no Keegan, and only if Tyus Jones is in the deal. I'm guessing you'd have to give up at least 1 first. I agree with you. I wouldn't do 2, but I'm in on the Tyus Jones thing.
Well, the problem is Tyus Jones makes $14 million.
That's fine. Figure it out.
Well, yeah, but that's a lot to figure out, because if now
I'd
you're looking
toss
at
in Harrison Barnes.
Now you're looking at $39 million in contract, and that means you've got to include
I'm fine with it.
Harrison Barnes, or you've got to include Trey Lyles and another piece. Like,
no, keep Trey Lyles.
Yeah.
Add Harrison Barnes to that.
Yeah. Okay.
Signed, sealed, and delivered.
So
I love Tyus Jones.
Hey, look, I think
I'm a big Tyus Jones guy.
What we're looking at with Washington right now is a team that understands that this isn't it, and that they can't buy a couple of years. What they can do is reset their roster and maybe sell off 1 or 2 of these guys for a first round pick.
I love the idea that just now on January 3rd, Washington was like, maybe this team's not it.
I think
when everybody 4 games in was like, ugh.
I think they could have they thought they could at least have been fun.
Right.
Like, hey, we're not going to win a bunch of games, but at least we have a guy that could average 30 a game and another guy could average 25 a game, and at least we'll be fun.
Yeah.
That's not what's
they're
happening.
Fun for the wrong reasons. They're fun for a lot of the wrong reasons.
Like Nelson, like,
yeah,
that kind of fun.
Right.
Yeah.
You're being laughed at, not laughed with.
Yeah.
916-909-1320 is the number. James, what's up?
What's up, guys? Sorry about the connection earlier.
That's way better.
Way better.
Oh, yeah. I iTunes or whatever they're called. All right, here we
Totally.
go. So my whole card is just garbage because I don't want to talk Kuzma. I was going to talk about so much, but Kuzma, man, I'm not going to be on here very long, but Kuzma, I think, is the guy.
Oh.
You're in on Kyle Kuzma?
I'm in. I'm sold. Just what you guys have been saying, man. I'm sold.
Okay. What else? Real quick, give me a little taste of what else you were going to say.
I was going to say Duarte looked great. Trey Lyles needs to start over HB. HB's he's not doing anything. I'm watching. He's very inconsistent. He's just standing in the corner. It's like, dude, move around, get rebounds. I'm just not seeing anything from him.
I'm with you.
I just need to see something.
Right.
And then Herter's still hurting. I'm pulling the card back out now.
Oh no, he took notes.
Well, all right. Well, we're gonna. I appreciate the call, James. I don't want to have him dig all the way into his
his stuff. Well, this is always the problem.
He hit on the Harrison Barnes Trey Lyles thing though, which is we were talking about that a little bit last night.
Okay. Yeah, I the one thing I hate is that, like, I can make an argument for somebody and like sway a certain percentage of people.
Mm-hmm.
And I don't really want to do that when it comes to Kyle Kuzma. Like, if Kyle Kuzma comes to the Kings, like, I'm not 100%. I look at him as a salary.
Here's what I'm guessing that there are a lot of people who have been kind of in on the Kyle Kuzma idea, but not wanting to publicly say so because of how much of a joke the Wizards are right now.
Oh,
but when you lay it out, people go, oh, see, yeah, okay, now I'm in. Because now they can just publicly say it. I don't know how many people you're swaying necessarily.
Okay.
If that helps you.
Okay. It might make me feel better about the situation. I do know, like, look, the Kings were interested this summer. And he had I think he thought he was going to Houston. And there was actually a couple of deals that Houston was hot on early on. They thought they were getting Brook Lopez, which I'm not even sure why, but they were heavy in on a couple of players. But when they were able to get Van Vliet to commit and then they didn't have enough salary, it became Dylan Brooks as opposed to Kyle Kuzma, and they built out their roster. And so I think he decided not to go to Sacramento. There was an option there.
Man. I'm in.
You're in.
Yeah. I'm in based on you, though. You swung me.
Damn it.
Hey, TC, can you say what you need to say in 1 minute?
Yeah, it's real quick. First and foremost, I want to say what's up to my two guys, Hammer and Kyle. But hey, Hammer, as far as we got to stop acting like moving Harrison Barnes, like if we can't trade him, moving Harrison to the bench is like the baddest thing ever. Like, I swap Harrison Barnes right now for Trey Lyles in the starting lineup. Duarte already got switched out for Herter. Like, that's not the baddest thing. And also, I'm all in on Kuz. I was one of the big names on Kuz, and I'm glad to see that you came around on Kuz. I'd take a trade for Kuz, and that might be the trade, Victor. But if we can't move on from Harrison, we have to stop acting like moving Harrison to the bench will be the wrong thing because we don't have another answer at a guy that can play the stretch four. You get what I'm saying?
Yeah.
And I know you're probably not saying that. I'm just like, that's not the worst thing. It's not like, oh, we can't move Harrison to the bench and we'll fall off the map. That's not the thing, man. Trey Lyles can get in there and answer big.
No,
thanks, TC.
I'm with you, TC. Like, there comes a point where, like, productivity, if you can't be productive and you can't find a way to make an impact, then you need to, then Mike Brown needs to make a move. But at the same time, the Kings really, and this isn't a knock on Trey Lyles, the Kings really still need that long, super athletic supporting piece next to Domantas Sabonis. And saying that Trey Lyles isn't a knock on Trey Lyles. I mean, Trey Lyles is built the way he's built. He's right. I like him as a 5. I like him playing the 4 and the 5. But I just don't know that the switch out is there because you don't have the switchability with your 3 and your 4. If that's what you're doing, I think Harrison Barnes is much more switchable defender. And that's how the Kings play.
I think it's more of a plea to get their 5 best players on the court more often.
He can play more minutes.
Yeah.
I just don't know that like starting him is going to change anything. And maybe it would.
We're going to continue talking about all this. Kyle Kuzma, Trey Lyles, et cetera, 916-909-1320. That's 916-909-1320. If you want to join the conversation on ESPN 1320, more Kings coming up.
I don't know. I was just shocked by Kyle Kuzma's contract. When I saw it, I was like, huh. He can't be traded until January 15th. And again, he's available. Like, I know that personally. He's available. There is no question about
that. Johnny, I threw the flag because it felt like he was leaning into it too much. Like, it started to feel like it was on purpose.
Well, anytime you say pause yourself like 2 or 3 times, that's usually
like at that point there are more words that he could have used there. Also, this is annoying, Drew. Like, I know that, but Steph also missed 20 games. How many games do you miss in 21, 20? 19 games, 18 games, and Poole was so good that to start the playoffs that Steph came off the bench when he was healthy. Like, come on, man. Come on now.
Interesting. According to Jake Fisher, teams can sign players to 10-day contracts beginning Friday. That's interesting. There's also a date coming up that JTA they have to guarantee his contract, which it might be the 20th. I don't not to trash him at all. I just don't think that they'll pick up that option.
He doesn't doing now.
Because you can waive him and then come back and sign him to a 10-day.
Yeah.
And then another 10-day after the deadline, you can make a decision on what you want to do with him as a roster player and bring him back.
Yeah.
Oh.
Oh, that's so annoying. That's so annoying. About 40 seconds. What do you got?
Well, I'm just reading that the Chance Comanche situation there. They're trying him and his ex-girlfriend together on
Jeez.
murder, kidnapping, and conspiracy cases will be combined so that him and his ex-girlfriend and alleged co-conspirator, Sakari Harnden, can be tried together. That's, yeah, he intends to plead not guilty, although he told the cops what he did. And so good luck with that.
10 seconds. Hey, that's us. I'm Kyle. That's James, hanging out with you until noon. D'Lo and KC coming up next. They're rocking with you from noon to 4.
All right.
Right here on ESPN 1320. I want to thank everybody for listening, whether you're on the free Odyssey app, whether you're listening on the radio, or whether you're watching on ESPN 1320 TV. That's at youtube.com/ESPN 1320, twitch.tv/ESPN 1320. If you are watching, go ahead and hit that thumbs up for us. We would appreciate the heck out of that. And also, please subscribe to our YouTube channel. That would also be greatly appreciated.
Mm-hmm.
So if you're there, hit that little subscribe, hit that little notification bell. You'll get a notification whenever we go live, which we do every day, Monday through Friday at 10 a.m. Hell yeah. Actually, we're live at like 9:58.
Yeah, we go live a little early.
Get a little pregame.
And
little
it's
pregame
nice
show.
because the chatty house, there's so many people already in there when we jump on.
Oh, it's cracking in there.
Oh yeah, it always is. So it's a nice little community. So if you're looking for a nice little sports talk community and want to go hang out with the good people in the chatty house, I highly recommend it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's what I do.
Yeah.
I just hang out in the chat.
Yeah.
Literally, when I didn't have a job and I did my hits with D'Lo and KC still,
Mm-hmm.
I just jump in the chatty house sometimes.
Okay.
Just
hang out.
Yeah. Just vibe.
All right.
It's a good time in there.
I like it. Hey, Kyle, I was, there's some Davion Mitchell's played the last couple of games, right?
Mm-hmm.
And I know a lot of people are like, well, what happened there? Did Keon Ellis just kind of like burn out, or, why is Davion playing now? And I think some of it's matchup based over the last couple of games, especially with Atlanta. I think that he's had a couple of solid games, like one really good game, probably. And even the good game that I would say is the Atlanta game, where I thought he was super impactful.
Mm-hmm.
The next game against Memphis, he was 4-4 from the field and looked more confident. 8 points, 4 assists, like settling in a little bit. And it was a plus 11. But everybody on the team was like a plus something because they won by 32.
Right.
But then we get to like the next game and he's still part of the rotation. So the last 3 games, 13, 14 and a half minutes, right?
Mm-hmm.
And I think some people are like, well, why are they doing this now? And I would say there's a good chance it's just to make sure that teams know that he's healthy. And, that we could see the Kings go back to Keon Ellis at any time. We could see them give Colby Jones a shot to take on that role of sort of backup whatever and go out there and play some minutes. So for right now, I think it's going to be Davion, at least until the trade deadline. because I think there is value in showing teams what he can do. And if you can get him in the right mode, maybe he helps you, but also maybe it shows that he's someone that can help another team as well.
It's somebody who can play next to a score first, no defense type of guard, you mean?
Yeah.
Like in Washington.
Yeah.
Or they might be building around a young score first, no defense guard, and they need a young defensive minded guard to put next to him. I don't know.
Or
Just
maybe
spitballing.
Or maybe someone like Atlanta, which you just happen to play.
Maybe
he would look like different next to a guy like Trae Young. I mean, that would be a pretty small backcourt, but at the same time, you can see that, like, look, this is still a player that I think has plenty of upside, and I don't think that he can maximize his upside in Sacramento. And that's not because he doesn't work hard. It's just like a different style of basketball player. He's still a really, really good defender, and I think he's a much better shooter than he's been able to show this year. And I just think a lot of that is he hasn't been able to get enough reps and enough, like, I don't know, the flow of the game doesn't help him when he is in the game. Like, he needs to settle in and play like a 7-minute stretch, just him and the second unit, and see if he can develop from there.
Sadiq Bey for Davion Mitchell, I think works straight across. Your thoughts? I'm just playing around in the trade machine now.
No, we're not doing trade machine stuff.
No, why? Why not?
Yeah, because
it's flawless.
Atlanta's not doing that.
Why?
Because they gave up 5 second-round picks for him.
But it works in the trade machine.
That's right. Because you have to have two teams that are on the same page about what they're looking for. Yeah, I'm with you, man. I'm with you. Yeah.
I don't know if DeJounte Murray is the dude. You just brought up the Hawks, which is why that's clanging right in my head now.
Yeah.
And then I'd look up and down the Hawks roster, and okay, Clint Capella, I get it. I get the fit, but how much of a role does he have? And then I see Sadiq Bey, and it's like,
yeah. Well, I mean, that's like, again, there are players all around the league that would look good in a Sacramento Kings uniform. Like, they have a pretty structured situation. I'd even say, like, look, if you want to show that Kevin Huerter or help Kevin Huerter find his game, whether it's for you or for someone else, the best way to do that is probably putting him on the bench where he's going to get more shots.
I don't know if I've ever seen a player in any sport on any team that I have followed that needs a change of scenery more than Kevin Huerter needs one.
Oh, I don't know. Really?
I think so.
Okay.
I'm exaggerating with that, but Kevin Huerter badly needs a change of scenery.
Yeah, I mean, I could say the same thing about Jordan Poole last year. Jordan Poole, like, got punched out, and then his response was to not be a good basketball player, and like, a change of scenery was very necessary for him.
Yeah, and when you watch Kevin Huerter, and it's just, he's not, it feels like everything is very robotic. Feels like it's very methodical. Like, just, I don't know if I don't want to say it's not that he's trying too hard, but it feels like when he's shooting it, you can tell it's like, I need to make this.
Oh,
this needs to go in. He's pressing is the word I was looking for.
He's in his own head.
So
big
bad.
Time. Yeah. He's in his own head.
And I just don't know.
Any question.
And I just don't know with Sacramento. I mean, maybe the shots start falling and everything's magical again. I just don't know with Sacramento how that happens.
I don't know. So, like, the dynamic of this team is very different behind the scenes. So, you got guys like Kevin Huerter and Keegan Murray that are close, guys like Trey Lyles. Like, I think that there is a way to pull him through this, but I'm not sure, like, when you make the change to go to a defensive-minded shooting guard over Kevin Huerter. And again, I asked Mike Brown about this yesterday in pregame. Mike Brown brought up that it wasn't so much that De'Aaron Fox is shooting and making threes. It's that De'Aaron Fox has become such a big-time scorer that you kind of need, or you can look at a different type of player in the backcourt next to him. And that's why Chris Duarte is getting this opportunity. It's one of the reasons. And so, like, again, I think, we talked about this, like, the defensive-minded guy that the Hawks need next to Trae Young. Well, this... It
was supposed to be DeJounte Murray.
Yeah. No, but the Kings need it as well, right? And that's okay. I think even the fact that Duarte is a little raw offensively and in some cases limited offensively is a good thing. Like as long as he buys into the role and plays to his strengths,
Mhm.
you don't need him doing too much offensively.
Yeah.
So, I mean, if he averages 8 to 10 points a game, I think the Kings might be a better team than if you had, another guy there averaging 13 or 14.
The important thing for me with Duarte specifically, and we can dig into this. I know you wanted to talk about him in the Doug Christie comp, which I want to hear about.
Yeah.
But the important thing for me with Duarte is not what his PPG says. I don't care what his points per game is. Maybe it's 14, maybe it's 8, maybe it's 17. I don't know. I don't know. But it is like the reason that Davion Mitchell wasn't on the floor in game 7 was because it allowed the Warriors to play 5-on-4 on defense.
Mm-hmm.
They just didn't guard him because he wasn't enough of a threat. If Chris Duarte is just enough of a threat in the corner that a team can't just leave him alone and they actually have to guard all 5 players, and if he is going to thrive in that role and grab some rebounds and have a couple of putbacks and play good defense, I don't care how many points per game he's scoring. Like that just, and maybe it does fall in the 8 to 10 range, and some nights he'll have 20 and other nights he'll have 2. But if he can consistently do the dirty work, make the right passes, play with pace and decisiveness,
Mm-hmm.
and be a good defender, which is what he was. That was what he was coming out of Oregon.
Yeah.
It's like, man, this guy can shoot the 3 and defend on the perimeter. If he can do those things, that and just be a player that teams have to account for on offense. That's I think what the Kings need next to De'Aaron.
Yeah. I mean, what you need is for him to be physical, which he is.
Mm-hmm. Sometimes overly so.
Yeah. The fact but also the fact that he's 6'6", that he's a good rebounder. I mean, this is a guy that averaged as a rookie 4.1 rebounds per game.
Mm-hmm.
Like that's good for a shooting guard. That's good. You'll take it.
Yeah.
Right. So he doesn't mind mixing it up, going into the trees. He's also a great back cutter. Like there are things that he does that are just it fits what the Kings are doing, but also there will be a game where he needs to score 20.
Mm-hmm.
And I think he's got that in his bag. And there are also games where, look, you need to take some of the pressure off De'Aaron Fox. We need you to defend the toughest guy out there.
Mm-hmm.
It's like, okay, I got you. And that's where like the comp with Doug Christie comes in. In all reality, it's De'Aaron Fox is a much better player than Mike Bibby was.
Yes.
Much better player.
Yes. No disrespect to Mike Bibby.
No, but that doesn't change the fact that in order to maximize Bibby, you had to have a player like Doug who would do all of these other things.
Mm-hmm.
And that's where I really think that Chris Duarte can grow into a role. And, we can talk about this. We got to hit a break, but we can talk about this after the break.
I was ready to blow through the break, but
yeah.
I'm glad that you're keeping an eye on the clock.
All right.
I was dialed into your Doug Christie thing.
All right.
The Doug Christie, Chris Duarte comp. More on that coming up next on The Insiders. Sponsored by Jiffy Lube on ESPN 1320.
Oh, yeah. That makes sense. I kind of messed up this whole entire thing, haven't I?
I turned my mic off. What happened?
I said I've kind of messed up this whole rundown, haven't I?
No, dude, the rundown is a general list of ideas.
Yeah.
There's no rhyme or reason to it. It's broken down by time more to keep me on track than to like follow. In fact, nah, it's fine. We'll leave it like it is. I think Herter needs a change of scenery because it's very clear that his role is going backwards in Sacramento, and I don't know that he is going to be able to dig himself out of whatever hole that he has dug here.
Yeah, I also just think, I mean, straight up, like Mike Brown kind of like set the standard for what was happening during the preseason. when all of a sudden out of nowhere, Chris Duarte might be the starter. And I think part of it was to push Kevin, but I think another part of it was like just straight up, Chris Duarte is much more of a Mike Brown type player than Kevin Huerter is. And that's not a knock on Kevin. They're just different styles of players.
Yep.
And Mike needs those types of players because his team is bad defensively.
Yeah, and he said that he wanted them to get better defensively. And when you look at their lineup, that's the player that gets circled. Yeah, it's just because you're not gonna circle Keegan, you're not gonna circle De'Aaron or Sabonis. We talk a lot about Harrison Barnes too. So
yeah.
All right, 5 seconds. Here we go.
All right.
Feels like there's some changes on the horizon for the Kings as we break down their 111-104 loss to the Hornets last night. Not necessarily breaking the game down, but just kind of trying to look big picture at what last night's loss meant for Sacramento, because it appears to me, and I think to a lot of people who watched that game last night, that hey, this particular roster as currently constructed is just not. It feels like it's hitting a ceiling, like it's capping out a little bit.
Okay.
And one of the changes they've already made, and whether they do or don't make a trade, TBD, I think they will. Who that's for, couldn't tell you. We have some ideas, we have some thoughts, but one of the changes they've already made is inserting Chris Duarte into the starting lineup over Kevin Huerter.
Yes.
And this is something that started back in the preseason, right? Chris Duarte went into the starting lineup. He was actually going to start again, but then got hurt. Kevin Huerter goes back into the starting lineup, and that's just kind of where he was up until a couple nights ago. And Mike Brown said before the year that this team needs to get to a new level defensively. They're not going to be 20, what were they, 25th in defensive rating last year?
Yeah. So
25th, 23rd?
Yeah, 24th, 25th.
Not going to be that spot in defensive rating again.
Yep.
They're going to get better. And when you look at the Kings lineup and you look at their roster top to bottom, and somebody in the chatty house asked this, why not Harrison Barnes? Because it's not going to be Domas, it's not going to be De'Aaron Fox, it's not going to be Keegan Murray. They're in the starting lineup. That's the case. That's always going to be the case. So you have Kevin Huerter and Harrison Barnes. Well, I think the reason that Kevin Huerter gets circled and not Harrison Barnes is A, because Barnes is a little bit better defender, but B, the Kings have more options to replace Kevin Huerter than they do Harrison Barnes.
Yes.
They don't have a lot of players that can play that. Trey Lyles, like, okay, but that's it.
Yeah. Like, I think what's missing, what people miss about Harrison Barnes, and like, look, people think that I'm just like the biggest Harrison Barnes supporter ever.
It's a little frustrating, but go on.
But the problem that you have is that Harrison Barnes is a 3-4, right? He can play either position. Trey Lyles, Sasha Vezenkov, they are 4s. And in Trey Lyles' case, he's a 4-5. Like, switchability, having two guys who can be a 3 or a 4 is the modern NBA. And while I do believe that you can find a better player than Harrison Barnes, you don't have a better player than Harrison Barnes today. And I know that some people say, well, Trey Lyles. Okay, but the problem is that we keep seeing Keegan Murray get switched onto 2s and onto 1s. Like, that's how the Kings are playing this, right? They're using him to defend all kinds of people. Well, the switchability factor matters. That means that Trey Lyles now has to defend 3s and sometimes 2s. They're like, it's a switching thing that happens all the time. Like, I'm not saying Trey can't do it, but I'm saying that Harrison Barnes is better at it. And does Harrison Barnes get beat sometimes? Sure, he does. But like, the defensive player of the year last year was Jaren Jackson Jr., and Domantas Sabonis just took him to the woodshed. So sometimes it's about matchups. Sometimes it's about the type of player you're playing against, but it doesn't mean Harrison Barnes is a bad player.
No, and that doesn't mean that the Kings can't upgrade at that spot either. They just don't right now have that player on their roster.
It's not there.
And
That's all I'm
if
saying.
they go get Kyle Kuzma, then sure.
Yeah.
But right now that player is not there. However, when you remove Kevin Huerter, now you have Keon Ellis is an option, Davion Mitchell's an option, Chris Duarte is an option. They have all these different players that they can throw into that spot and say, hey, let's see how this works. And right now it's Duarte. And this is why they went and got Chris Duarte. Because they wanted to get better defensively, and that is what he is very good at.
Yeah.
And their defensive rating is not particularly improving.
It is. They jumped
very,
from 21 to 16 yesterday. Remember we said they're at like 15.3 and there's a bunch of teams at 50. Like they were able to take a jump to number 16.
Look at that.
League. All is right in the world.
It's
all
working.
is right in the world.
Congratulations to Mike Brown. Just got the Midas touch. He's pushing all the right buttons.
He just the world's best cup of coffee. He just made it the world's best cup of coffee. Congratulations. Yeah.
So when's the parade?
So look, I have people kick back on this idea all the time. Like, I don't know why there are people that don't like, you can disagree with me, but if you can't see the comparison between Bobby Jackson and Malik Monk, I don't know. And I think the memory of what Bobby Jackson was, or the memory of what Doug Christie was, sometimes outweighs who they actually were on the court. And if you go back, like Chris Duarte, in all reality, could be equal to or better than the offensive player that Doug Christie was in Sacramento. Like when he was with Toronto, sure, 15, 16 points per game. When he was in Sacramento, that's not what he did. He averaged 12.4, 12.3, 12 points per game. His final year, he averaged 9.4 and 10. Like Doug Christie was the fifth option on the offensive side, but he also was a good assist man. He was an outstanding defender. He was a 2.3 steals per game guy. Like there are certain things that he did, and this Kings team needs a glue guy. And that's what Doug was. He was the glue that kept everything together.
Yep.
Like you had your leader was Vlade. Your best player was Chris Webber. Your like best shooter was Peja Stojakovic. But your glue guy, the guy who held everything together, the guy that didn't mind diving on the floor, didn't mind punching Rick Fox in the face, didn't mind defending Kobe Bryant, that was Doug Christie. And that is where I think Chris Duarte can fit in. Now, he's got a long way to go before I truly say he's that type of player.
Sure.
But that's the type of like player he's molded after. He needs to show me that his basketball IQ is where Doug's eventually got to, and that he can think the game the way that Doug did, because that's a big deal.
Well, yeah. And I think, I mean, the fact that Doug had 10 years in the league, 9 years in the league before he got to Sacramento.
Yes.
Like it makes the learning curve a little bit different.
Yeah.
For sure.
Even if you look at Doug as a 26-year-old, he averaged 14.5 in Toronto. Again, the shooting numbers weren't great. His overall field goal percentage wasn't great. I mean, he started 50 games during the lockout season. He shot 38.8% from the field and 30% from three. Like, I think the image of Doug is a little bit, first of all, he's an incredible dude, and he was on the broadcast, and he's, for a lot of people, he's their favorite King. But also like his intensity on the court, that's what we're talking about. His willingness to step up and defend the toughest guy on the opposing team. That's what we're talking about. And I think it's great. Mike Brown talked about it last night that Chris Duarte has been working with Dip, who's one of their development guys. Dip. I don't know his full name, but that's what they call him. And
that's how you know he's a real one.
I actually believe that's his first name, but
okay.
Either way, he's been working with him, Leandro Barbosa, and Doug Christie on defending without fouling, on stopping with the grabbing and getting his hands up, leading with his chest, all this stuff. And we're seeing the improvement. So it shows me that Chris Duarte has an acumen for learning and for taking another step. So I'm okay with, I don't mind the move. Early in the season, when De'Aaron Fox wasn't a 31 point or 30 per game guy, I think you still need Kevin Huerter.
Yeah.
But this team, like a team grows organically, it becomes what they are. And right now, this team needs somebody that can stop somebody from going to the basket and getting Domantas Sabonis in foul trouble.
Just to be clear, in case this isn't, because I know people jump in halfway or maybe they're half listening.
Yeah.
You're not saying that Chris Duarte is Doug Christie right now.
No.
It is, can he grow into over the next, ideally few months, but over the next, maybe season or two, can he grow into that?
Yeah. Can
and
he
become
be
that type of player?
That type of player.
Yeah, right.
And I mean, some of the Chris Duarte still needs to prove he can stay on the court.
1,000%.
Like he does.
He needs to prove that he can do what he did last night for a 10-game stretch
or 40 more games.
Right.
Like he needs to show that, and he doesn't have
a
to
lot
have
to prove still.
12, 7, and 4.
Right.
But those are like 12, 4, and 3, or 10, 4, and 3. If he can do that and play an elite defense and shoot 34 to 36% from 3, okay, I'm in.
Yep.
Because you can cover any of his deficiencies with the rest of that roster.
Right. He just can't be a liability offensively. Make teams guard him. That's it.
Yeah. And I think he will. I mean, this is a guy that as a rookie averaged 14 points a game or whatever, was 13.6.
Yeah, he can shoot it too. Shot it in college. He shot it as a rookie. He shot it really well. So
yeah.
I like the idea, and I certainly see what Mike Brown was doing, or what the Kings were doing when they signed him, and I see what Mike Brown's doing now. And frankly, I like it. I like that he's not just going, hey, we're running it back. Hey, this is the best offense in the league last year. Hey, did you see that stat real quick? Did you see that stat that last year's Kings set a record for the best offensive rating of all time? Offensive rating, points scored per 100 possessions. They are now 6th highest ever. And like 8 of the 12 or 10 of the 12 highest offensive ratings of all time are this year.
Okay, so
that is nuts.
18.6 was the number last year.
118.6.
118.6. The Pacers are at 122.2. The Celtics are at 120.9. The Bucks are at 120.7. The 76ers at 120.4. The Thunder at 119.2. And the Atlanta Hawks are at 119.1. The Kings would be 7th now. 7th. Their number last year, which was the highest of all time, would be 7th. The game is changing. And I'm telling you, man, teams just aren't playing defense.
They got to
do
something, dude.
Nobody's playing defense.
The league's got to do something. They got to make it. Bring back hand checking or something. I don't know. You got to do something though.
Yeah, it's wild. I don't know.
I love offense. I love points. I'm here for it. But like, come on now. Like,
it's
not just pace and threes.
The best team in the league's defensive rating is the Minnesota Timberwolves at 108.2. That's a lot.
That's so many points.
121.2 is worse.
They're giving up like 108 a night, basically.
Yeah.
And they're the best defense in the league.
Yeah. And they're the only team that's held a lot of teams under 100. I think it's like 9 times or something.
Yep.
Everyone else is like 2. God. We've done it twice. Yeah.
All right. Kings Magic tonight. The dreaded back-to-back for Sacramento.
Eesh.
The Magic also on a back-to-back, though. Will that help? We'll get into keys to a Kings victory. We'll have the handoff. One of D'Lo or Casey will be in here to chat with us about their thoughts on last night's game and everything we kind of been talking about today. That's coming up next. What?
We have a Jiffy Lube player of the game to give away.
Thank you.
$100 gift certificate.
To Jiffy Lube.
To Jiffy Lube, don't you know?
ESPN1320.com. There's a Jiffy Lube logo. I meant to do this, and then I got all wrapped up. ESPN1320.com, Jiffy Lube logo. Our Jiffy Lube Fast Break player of the game.
Oh, we're doing it now?
Doing it right now.
Okay, do it.
Duarte.
Do it.
Chris Duarte.
The password is Duarte.
Duarte. Enter that code word at ESPN1320.com. Click that Jiffy Lube logo, and you will be entered to win a $100 Jiffy Lube gift certificate, courtesy of our friends at Jiffy Lube. That's our sponsor. And here are some more sponsors on ESPN 1320.
Let me see. Opponents. The Timberwolves, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9 games this season. They've held an opponent under 100. That's crazy when you go back and look at some of the great Kings teams outscoring teams like 93 to 82. See,
is this right? That's nuts if that's right.
What, how many players?
15?
What? The Kings have held 2 teams under 100 this year, including the Memphis Grizzlies on Sunday. Did that just come out?
Looking right now. Top 5 vote getters were Brock Purdy, Christian McCaffrey, Tua, George Kittle, and Travis Kelce.
Wow. Ooh, the Rams announced that Carson Wentz will start Sunday versus the 49ers.
Yeah.
And the team will rest Matthew Stafford. They're that deep in the playoffs? I didn't know they could rest.
Oh my God. Okay, so I just mentioned Brock Purdy, Christian McCaffrey, and Travis Kelce were top 5 in fan voting.
Mhm.
NFC's top vote getters at their positions. Fullback Kyle Juszczyk, wide receiver Brandon Ayuk, left guard Aaron Banks, center Jake Brendel, left tackle Trent Williams, defensive end Nick Bosa, defensive tackle Eric Armstead, linebacker Fred Warner, cornerback Trevarius Ward, punter Mitch Wishnowsky, long snapper Tabor Pepper, and kick returner Ray McLeod.
12.
And that doesn't include Brock Purdy, Christian McCaffrey, and George Kittle.
So 15.
15. 15 is correct. That has been fact-checked, signed, sealed, delivered.
What?
Yeah, I said Ayuk. I just said the wrong position first.
Is that fan voting?
Yeah.
Okay, so that doesn't mean
Right, that's just fan voting.
Okay, and there's
Then there's a player and coach vote. I believe they each count for a third.
There's a formula. Yeah. Okay.
I think it's just straight up coaches vote, players vote, fans vote, and it's all weighted equally across the third, I believe. Yeah, the Niners Rams might be a full-blown preseason game, dude. We'll talk about that more throughout the week, but
Have we calmed down like throughout the show? Or are we still like on edge after last night's loss?
oh no, last night's loss sucked. It's just there's only so many times you can be like, wow, what a garbage performance. Everybody knows it. Yeah, spin it forward. You got to talk about more stuff.
Drew Down, I couldn't agree with this more. Like
It's just fan votes though.
As a guy who really enjoys watching Brandon Ayuk, CeeDee Lamb has been unbelievable.
Yeah, he's been
this year.
crazy.
Was 1650, and he's got I think 12 total touchdowns.
Yeah, he's been really, really good.
Yeah.
All right, here we go. 10 seconds. Final segment, then we'll hand it off to D'Lo and Casey. One of those two guys will be in to chat with us for the handoff. Talk Kings Magic tonight. You know, I don't know if I believe De'Aaron Fox, by the way.
Oh.
So I think I kind of here. Let's hear from De'Aaron Fox. Then I'll give my thoughts as a person who watches. He only plays. I watch. So like, I mean, who are you really gonna like believe?
Okay.
Here's what De'Aaron Fox said last night about the Kings loss to the Hornets and moving on with the back-to-back.
I mean, those are usually the good things about back-to-backs. Whenever you don't play well in that first game, like you said, you have to have a short-term memory because you have another game tomorrow. So, like I said, we want to, obviously, tomorrow we'll watch film on some of this, but we have to prepare for the next game. So get what we get out of this game, whatever our teaching moments are, and move on to the next one because Orlando's coming in here. They played well this year, and we have to be ready or else they can look like the rest of our back-to-backs.
Oh, that faded out weird. Okay, anyways, he basically said they have to prepare for, if you missed it, he said they have to prepare for Orlando and play hard because if they don't, or if they keep dwelling on the Hornets loss, then their game against the Magic is going to look like the rest of their back-to-backs this year. He also said earlier in his press conference that the second he walks out of that building, he's forgetting the Hornets game. And I get that from a standpoint of like, De'Aaron Fox is not worried that Domantas Sabonis is going to turn it over 11 times against the Magic. Like that's not a thing that he is concerned about. He's not worried that all of a sudden in fourth quarters, he's going to start dribbling it off his foot all the time. Like that's not, but I think it's worth and he said it there. They're going to watch tape. They're going to learn from last night's game. But then, yeah, you have to turn around and you have to get up to play Orlando. You can't be sitting there sulking as you take the court tonight. So maybe ultimately, though, maybe last night's loss was actually helpful for them. And again, I'm not like saying it was good, but with the whole back-to-back thing, because the Kings are 0-4 in back-to-backs. Maybe getting smoked last night is like a little bit of a, okay, hey, let's lock in for this game tonight.
You would hope so.
I'm grasping at straws here. I'm trying, guys.
You would hope so, but at the same time, like they have to figure out what it is on the second night of a back-to-back that doesn't mesh. Like they are not bringing the same intensity, and like the back-to-backs are some of the worst like defensive rated games in the history. Like they are so bad in those games on the second night of a back-to-back that it's not even like a competition. They just aren't competitive at all. So yeah, they got to figure it out. This is a good way to test that theory. But I also believe De'Aaron Fox when he says that once, he goes home, he probably thinks about it for a few minutes. He probably goes over the game film, like, how do we learn from this? But then he's got, as a guy who's averaging 30 points a game and who has to bring a certain level of intensity and a certain scoring punch, he's got to just forget and move on, because what we've seen this season is, 13 games over 30 points. He's got 4 games under 20, 3 games under 20. Like the team, he has to show up the next day and be excellent, or the Kings can't move forward. And so again, like some of the worst games he's had this year, it's those second night of a back-to-backs where he scored 14 twice. But overall, like, he is the guy who has to be a goldfish on this team. Yeah, he's got to just like forget what just happened and move forward.
Let's talk about that in a second. I want to read you a couple of quick numbers.
Yep.
And then we'll get to our Kings keys to victory. Just make an intro for that as well.
Can I add something really quick?
Please.
Really quickly. The Sacramento Kings have picked up another nationally televised game. Friday, January 12th. They will play the Philadelphia 76ers on ESPN. That game has also been moved back to 7:30 local time, which I believe at Philadelphia.
So 4:30 here.
4:30 here, but they picked up, I believe, is that their 24th nationally televised game? I think so.
You will not be slept on no more, brother.
That's right.
They got to bring it though, man.
Yeah.
It can't be a game where you go punt.
I had heard rumors of this like a couple of days ago. But yeah, it's good to see.
Yeah.
It's a done deal. All right, Kyle, back to where you're
national
going.
TV.
Yep.
All right. Let's get to Kings keys to victory for tonight against the Magic. The Kings 0-4 in back-to-backs last year. This year. Orlando 2-4. This is already Orlando's 7th back-to-back. Orlando 2-4 in back-to-backs this year. They actually had a win over Chicago and then another one against Denver. They lost to Golden State last night, 121-115. Markelle Fultz, Joe Ingles, and Jonathan Isaac all missed last night's game. What is your first key to victory for the Sacramento Kings tonight, James?
I believe it's be a goldfish.
Yeah.
And if you don't know what that means, goldfish like have no short-term memory.
Yes.
I guess in theory, but I don't think it can be tested because I don't think we actually know what a goldfish is thinking.
Shout out to whoever devoted their life to that.
Yeah. But
like, that is years of like schooling and studying.
It is.
To go, how does a goldfish brain?
Oh, I don't think he remembers what just happened.
It's a short-term memory on a goldfish.
Yeah. So it's a line from Ted Lasso, right?
Yes.
You got to be a goldfish. And I think an NBA player has to be a goldfish like for 48 minutes in a game.
Yep.
You got to forget what just happened. If someone dunks on you, you got to move forward. You've got to, I mean, you have to find motivation however you have to find it. But the Kings need to forget about what happened last night because they have a very good team coming into Sacramento tonight.
Really, really good team. The Magic can play for sure. My first key to victory is take care of the ball.
Oh.
Don't turn it over 21 times, maybe. I don't know. The Kings have been, and again, the Kings have been very, very good all year at taking care of the basketball. We've talked so many times about their lack of turnover problems. It's been, hey, they gave up 30 fast break points and only had 7 turnovers. The fast break points are a problem, but the turnovers good. They had a bad night last night. That can't start to become a problem, because if now all of a sudden you're also dealing with turnover problems, that opens a whole new can of worms that we have not had to open yet. So take care of the basketball.
Okay.
Number 2.
Understand the moment. The Kings right now, they sit at 19 and 13. They blew the 20th win last night. They had their 20th win in the sights, but they're also 11-6 at home. You should be 12-5 at home.
Mm-hmm.
Like, that was a winnable game. You need to understand that this is a moment where you need to distance yourself from the teams that are all bunched up right below you in the standings. The Kings are 1 game up on Dallas, 1.5 game up on Phoenix, 2.5 games up on Houston. They're tied with New Orleans, but they're also just a game behind the Clippers. Like, understand where you are and understand like what each of these games means something. And when we get to the end of the year, you don't want to miss the playoffs, or you don't want to have to play in the play-in tournament, or you don't want to have to go on the road in the first round of the playoffs because you screwed up in a game against Portland and you screwed up in a game against a team like Charlotte, who had lost 11 in a row, was playing on the second night of a back-to-back, and was missing 4 starters. You have to understand the moment. Every single night you step on the court.
Yep.
And so I hope they do.
Yeah, you'd sure hope so. This would winning tonight would definitely take some of the sting out of losing last night to Charlotte. Number 2 for me is let the Magic shoot it. Let them shoot it as much as they want. Unless it's Joe Ingles, unless he's playing, the Magic as a team are shooting 33.4% from 3 this year.
Yeesh.
They also take among the fewest in the league. But I am fully of the mind that if you're the Kings tonight, you let them make it rain. And if they start making them, then you tip your hat and say, good on you. But do not let them get inside. They are a very long, very athletic team.
Mm-hmm.
I think you have to do everything you can to try and keep them out of the paint, keep them out of that mid-range, force them to shoot threes. Or at least leave them open for 3. Don't.
Okay, so they have a couple of strange numbers. Did you look at their numbers? Like,
no, I made up the 33.4%. What are they actually shooting?
No, I think you're right. I haven't looked. Franz Wagner, 33.4, is shooting 28.4 from 3.
Yeah, dude. But Franz can hoop.
Markelle Fultz, he hasn't hit a 3 yet. Like, and he's taken some. He's 0 for 3 on the season. Like, your starting point guard, at least I think he's their starter, or a guy who, plays. Well, he would be a starter if he was healthy, which has always been the problem. But this team, like, they don't shoot it well, and it's mostly everybody. So don't let somebody go crazy. Like, if Leaky Black decides to go off on you, that's such a Kings thing to happen. Such a Kings thing to happen.
Yeah, I don't. Yeah, I don't.
Okay.
I got nothing for you.
Yeah,
they don't shoot it well.
Pack the paint, and make them beat you from the outside. I totally agree.
Yep. Number 3.
Be a serious team. I think what we saw last night was like what we've talked about with other teams. That team wasn't serious. Like, if you start turning the ball over, crazy, right? Like, take a moment. Have a serious thought about what's happening. Stop turning the ball over. Be more conservative. Be more attentive. Hold on to the ball. And it's not just Domantas Sabonis. They had 9 other turnovers besides him. Like, be serious. But, like, take this fact that you're on the second night of a back-to-back and you can't win on the second. Take it serious. Like, go out there, put on a show for your fans, play to your potential, and go get a W against a solid NBA team.
Yep. That's it.
That's what
it comes down to. Key number 3 for me, you got to run tonight. I want to see a frenetic pace. And maybe this means that, okay, they have a couple more turnovers than we normally see. But Orlando is 3rd in the NBA in defensive rating at 111.2. They are long and athletic, like I mentioned earlier. That is a team like the Pelicans that has given the Kings problem. The Rockets have given the Kings problems. We saw, frankly, I think Charlotte last night They have a ton of length and athleticism. I think that bothered the Kings a little bit. That's what the Magic are built on right now. That's why they're good, is because of how good their defense is. So if you're taking the ball out of the basket and then you're going down and you're getting into your sets, they're going to be able to defend you. They're going to force you into tough shots. But if you can get out on the break, if you can get out on the run and you can force them to scramble around a little bit, I think it makes, it nullifies some of what makes them a very good team.
Yeah, I totally agree.
That's all.
Yeah, this is still a very young team. They're still growing, and you have an opportunity here. Like, you got to get right on your home floor.
Yeah.
And you have to snap that thing about the second night of a back-to-back. If you can move past that would be big.
Yeah, I totally agree. Damian Barling of D-Lo and KC fame joining us now. D-Lo and KC coming up here at noon. I love your hoodie today.
It's a fantastic hoodie.
It's a very, very strong hoodie.
It's my second favorite show.
Shop DLoandKC.com.
There it is.
Yes.
It's not your third favorite show? Don't you have
I was
two
gonna
shows?
say-
Well, I was going to
Are
say
we-
it's my second favorite show to D-Lo and KC on 102.5 KSFM. Then it's The Insiders. Then it's D-Lo and KC on ESPN 1320.
That's my rankings too. No. Hey man, good to see you.
Yeah, likewise.
Thanks for stopping in.
You guys got the ominous black background. I like it on the stream.
Do we?
Oh, I don't know.
Mine's purple.
Is yours purple? This one's
Yeah.
black. Oh, that's weird.
Weird.
Oh, ours is purple and fades to black at the bottom. It's
This is so weird. It's oh yeah, there's something going on over here on Kenny's computer. This is wild times over here.
YouTube.com/ESPN 1320 if
See
you
it
want to
for
check out the
yourself.
background.
we can do this.
You
There
can
we
do
go.
that. That's a good
Yeah,
look.
that's
I don't know
way
why
better.
you guys don't use this view more. Look how great you guys look here.
I don't know.
Oh, it
Then I
looks
gotta
good.
put on makeup, and that's
You
a whole
guys get a
thing.
little antsy when the computer gets that close and the
Yeah,
screen
I
gets.
don't
Oh,
like
you
it.
guys
I
look
don't like it
great.
one bit.
But see if I take my look at
Mm.
Yeah.
you guys look
Okay.
fantastic.
All right. Maybe we'll give it a shot tomorrow. Maybe
It's a
we'll-
very,
we'll-
very,
we'll
very
start.
visual driven conversation we're having here. So
Yeah.
apologies to
Extremely. It's
For
good
all those
radio.
people in the stream.
yeah.
Shout out to
Yeah.
everybody listening. Damien, Kings lose last night, 111-104
Mhm.
to a bad Charlotte team.
Yep.
Your thoughts?
Got quite a few to be honest with you.
Here, let me start here for you. Worst loss of the year?
Yeah, they did a nice job of upending the Portland one from a week ago.
Wild.
And I think that's where a lot of the angst and frustration with Kings fans is coming from, and understandably so, is this team, they've had those double-digit losses, which have been really concerning. But you had them to the Pelicans, who are, they're playing playoff team. The Houston Rockets, we'll see where they're going, but they had a really good stretch of basketball. They got their ass kicked by the Boston Celtics, which welcome to the club. But
Right.
the Portland one was the first one where it was really like, seriously?
Yeah.
Okay. You got it out of your system. That's fine. Let's fix this.
Mm-hmm.
You come out, you have that game you had against Memphis, which pretty much everyone was calling the most complete game of
It
the
was
entire season. I think
excellent.
the Kings were calling it the most complete game of the entire season.
They said it last night after the game. De'Aaron
And-
Fox did.
And then they roll out the Charlotte game. And as that game was playing out, it's like, okay, everyone stinks. And we'll talk about it. I had no problem saying it to you. I think the biggest culprit last night, I'm not absolving anyone from the way that they played last night. Last time was the first time we're like, man, Mike needs to chill. I didn't think the little bit with Malik worked. Like, there's certain guys I don't think you do that to. You're not going to do it to De'Aaron. You're not going to do it to Domas. And in my opinion, you don't do it to Malik Monk. And I caught the when they showed a replay on TV when Malik hit the shot. I didn't see it live. I saw it on the replay. He hits the shot and I saw him turn around. And I was like, did he just look at Mike? I feel like he just turned around and stared down Mike. And then Sean, your partner over at the Kings Beat, Fox 40, posted his video. And it was like, and of course, Sean Cunningham is a radar with this stuff.
Mm-hmm.
He sees something and he doesn't leave it. And he follows Malik the whole way and he catches that interaction on the bench. It's like, yo, what is going on here? And you saw the two interact a few times. And I know, Mike played it up. That's what we do. Like, hey, stop it. Like, you got to stop this. Look, he's not Terrence Davis.
Right.
he's not Davion Mitchell or Keon Ellis. Yo, that's Malik Monk. That's arguably, I know we all have these hopes for Keegan Murray. That's arguably your third most important player right now.
Sure.
Don't do that. Whatever's going on, hey, whether if it's missing a play, if it's a defensive assignment, whatever it is, timeout. Come here. We need to fix this right now. You don't bench the guy.
To me, he's their most important player.
I disagree. I mean, not that he's not their most important player. I thought that the way that Malik came in the game was unserious. And I thought Mike saw it right away and was pissed.
And I'm fine with that.
And then they come out of it. They go in the locker room at halftime. They come out after halftime. And like it looked like to me, he did basically the old Derek Martin play where he showed up Rick Adelman. And that's just not who, like, Malik can be a lot of things for this team. What he can't be is that. Like, show up, bring the energy, change the game, and play on.
But it shouldn't have gotten to that point, is my point.
Yeah. I mean,
and I'm fine with everything that you just said. Malik entered the game unserious. It was just talking about underhand passes, all these things. I'm completely okay with that. Timeout. Everyone get in here.
Yeah.
We're not doing that. We're at home. I think you were the first one who tweeted it. It came across on television. There was no energy in the building.
None.
And part of that was because of the way the Sacramento Kings approached the game. Like, you could feel it.
Yes.
Mm-hmm.
It picked up a little bit when De'Aaron, became De'Aaron in the fourth quarter, as he so often does. And with that, there's starting to be like a side effect to that. De'Aaron starts to do what he does, and the Kings just go, all right, cool.
We got this.
Fox,
got it.
no,
Yeah.
more specifically, Fox got it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And when that game, when that game got within 1 point and the Hornets had the ball, Kings are losing this game. They do not have it.
So
Man,
here's
this
what
is
I would
not it
say
for them.
too, though. Like, the energy in the building was horrible, and I blame the Kings 100%. The team itself.
Mhm.
We get to the third quarter. Malik hits those 2 threes. The energy in the whole entire building changes. It's nuts. Everyone is going crazy. They think the game is won. Malik showed up. He brought the energy. Malik needs to understand that that's who he is, not just to his team, but to the building.
Mhm.
And when he doesn't do that, and when he shows up and it's the underhand passes and then it's a problem. And like, I don't have a problem with Malik at all. Like, there are going to be nights where you have this, like, if you've coached,
And that's where Mike's got to correct it.
Yeah.
Right.
yeah,
Like,
yeah.
it happens, right? Those nights happen.
Yeah.
They'll happen with Malik. They happen with Terrence. They happen with Keegan. Apparently they happen with everybody except Harrison Barnes. You have to address it if you're Mike Brown immediately with a guy like Malik Monk. You do not bench him. That's not a guy that you bench.
Yeah.
And part of the result of last night's game, I think, was the decision to not play Malik Monk in the first half because you were pissed off at him.
Yeah.
That's possible. I'd also say the other thing, that if you're going to have that same conversation with Malik, at some point you needed to call a timeout and just pull Don Moss aside and say,
completely
man,
agree.
look, you're doing everything. You're average. You got 23 points. You got 18 rebounds. You cannot turn the ball over again. And that should have happened at turnover 5. Dude finished with 11 turnovers. And I know that it's not intentional. And sometimes you just don't have it. If he doesn't have it, though, like, you have to do what's right. Like, that's, to me, it was like, holy cow. Take a moment and recenter somebody. And we talked about this earlier. Every single time the Sacramento Kings start missing their free throws, you know that they're not focused, and there's a good chance they're going to lose.
It's crazy.
10 of 17 from the free throw line.
You've pointed that out before, and it's
You
spot
see
on.
it. Like, what is going on? And I don't know how you and it's Sabonis and it's Fox. And I don't know that it's them that are unfocused, or if it's just how they're showing the unfocusedness, but it's clear.
I don't feel like those two were unfocused. De'Aaron was very passive. That's what De'Aaron was. De'Aaron was passive. What I feel like is what happens with Domas is he starts missing shots at the rim. Like, Domas needs to be a dick and start just dunking on people. Just like dunk. Just
Yeah.
And all of this little laying stuff. No, go up.
Go all the way.
Because because ball's like rolling off the rim like 10 times, and he's putting his hands on his head like, oh no, the camera caught him cussing yesterday. He's walking down the floor. That's exactly what he said. He said, God, he said, I think he said, dag nammit.
Whoa.
Yo,
Whoa.
go up,
On the
dunk.
radio.
Yeah.
Be angry.
No,
play angrier because and it's not that he's making a bad basketball play. It's not that he's doing something wrong. It's just the touch is off. He's probably getting hit more than it's being called, and the ball's just rolling off the rim, and he's getting flustered, and he can get in position. He's similar to De'Aaron Fox by the basket. He could get the shot anytime he wants to, but when it starts to roll off that way, he's lost. And that's what I think happened last night. That's what I think contributed to the turnovers.
I want to put a pin in that for
Nice,
one of Kyle's
dude.
pins for when I come back and visit you guys later.
Kyle's got pins. I like it.
Yeah.
I do. I put pins and stuff all the time.
There's something that I think we can discuss.
That's 3 hours away. I'm going to forget. So I'm putting that on you to remember.
You put it, James, you put the pin in it. One thing we didn't get to, we've already blown through the out. So I'm just going to talk about it real quick. De'Aaron got asked about the Blazers loss and then the Hornets loss within like a few days of each other.
Yep.
And his response was not like, yeah, we need to figure that out.
No.
It was, oh, well, those are two totally different games.
Yep.
Like, yeah, that's a problem.
Yeah.
Do you not see that that's bad?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Anyways, it just felt like it was
different. I caught that too.
Dismissed it because like, oh, they're two totally different games. One game we gave up 130. This one we turned it over a bunch of times.
But
like,
I thought he did a decent job at least of explaining why they were so he was like, we were just trash tonight.
Yeah.
On every facet that we missed every defensive assignment in Portland we possibly could.
Yeah.
Like, oof. Yikes. All right. That's Damian, D'Lo, and Casey coming up next. We've been The Insider, sponsored by Jiffy Lube here on ESPN 1320.